How's everyone doing? I'm Tyler. This is Brandon. We are the host of 904 and More, where we talk Jaguars football and other news around the National Football League. Now, some of you may recognize me from my other channel where I just talk about Jaguars football, DJags Nation, which I'll put a link to that in the description below. But before we get into the video, we do want to talk about what this channel represents. This channel represents Jaguar football and other news around the NFL. As well, we will be dropping some podcasts relatively soon. I hope so, right, Brandon?
Yeah, hopefully soon. Hopefully we're looking for April near draft time, but no date.
And that will be on Spotify, which whenever that gets dropped, we will put a link in our YouTube channel page so you guys can all check that out. And also, we will be posting the links to our social media in the description below. So definitely check those out. So let's go ahead and get into it, Brandon. We have some really good topics to talk about. Most notably Jaguars free agency. The first wave just ended. Now we may end up signing, 1 to 3 more guys, but for the most part, this is the main Jaguar free agency class. What are your first initial thoughts?
Well, I'll give my grade. Honestly, day one was kind of like a C.
Yeah.
We all expected there was going to be a big name, and there was no big name. The biggest name was Agnew, probably, or maybe the Bears guy, Harris, but as the week went on, man, day 2, day 3, they really kicked it up, man. I give this free agent class like a solid B, maybe a B plus, because there may be I personally, we'll get to it later, I like Griffin a lot.
Yeah.
I think he's a great fit here. Like, to me, that's like a solid, and Marvin Jones, but everywhere else was just solid role players.
Yeah.
This defensive line went from one of the worst in the league to easily, I think, top 10 rotation wise. There's no big name guys as of yet. Malcolm Brown, maybe the biggest name because he's from the Saints. Saints are popular, but overall, this team is stacked on the defensive line. That was what Urban said he was going to attack defensive line. So for that just alone, I almost give it like a B. And then added all the other players. Special teams is now better. I think it's fantastic what Urban did in his first free agency.
Yeah, I actually gave it a B plus, similar to what you said. The defensive line last year was one of the worst in the league, and now he brought a lot of rotational guys. And the thing with this is, with rotational guys, is that no one's you're going to be that number one guy on the defensive line. They're going to rotate consistently. But the thing with that is that everyone's going to be healthy and fast. And Urban Meyer talks about speed and playing fast and all that. So when you're continually, rotating these defensive linemen in and out, the offensive linemen are going to get tired blocking someone that's healthy and, coming straight into the game. So I like that mindset. But, I would still like to get, that big name defensive tackle. So whether that's the draft, or maybe a trade, who knows? But like you talked about, you probably gave it a C plus on day one. When I'm looking at it, I was getting frustrated. I was like, man, these are nothing but special teams guys. But then when you start listening to Urban Meyer talks about special teams a lot. He is very big into special teams because it can win and lose you games. And I think as fans, sometimes we fail to recognize that. If someone muffs a punt or takes one to the house, that can be a game changer.
Sometimes special teams win the game. I mean, there's a big difference between getting the ball at the 10 and getting the ball at the 40.
Oh, absolutely.
And that goes for both sides because we got, I believe, will be our gunner with Ford from the Eagles. He's a strict special teams. He's going to run down the guy and he's going to tackle him. He may be like our third string safety kind of thing. I could see him maybe playing strong safety, but rather see him special. And then Agnew can easily just make a regular punt and get 10 extra yards than the average guy could have. I loved Cole. He had his special moments. Every year he almost had a punt return or a kick return for a touchdown. But this Agnew guy, he's special. And the contract isn't bad. There's a lot of incentives.
Yeah.
They're like $7 million. It's really like $3 million with incentives built onto that. So
absolutely.
Personally, the special teams is going to probably be one of the top, especially with Lambeau coming back healthy. I think that was a fluke last year with him just pulling hamstrings and just terrible injuries for him that multiple weeks out. And I think the Jags are kind of tanking at the end. I think he could have played, but they're like, why win?
Yeah.
So you're not going to get Lawrence because of that. So I think Lambeau healthy, Cook got extended. The special teams may be a top 10 special teams in the league after day one and all the extensions.
I agree 100%. And then also one thing I noticed when looking at all the free agents, Urban Meyer brought a lot of guys in that are very versatile. So Rayshawn Jenkins is safety. He can play free safety, strong safety, and he can go in the nickel. Philip Dorsett can land on the outside or go in the slot. Rudy Ford today in his media press conference said he can play free safety or strong safety. Agnew can play corner, slot wide receiver, running back, and kick and punt return.
He's gonna be our gunner that the Patriots have. That he plays everything. He's their guy.
And then you have obviously our defensive tackle Roy Roberts Harris. He can play defensive tackle, nose tackle, or defensive end. Same thing with Malcolm Brown, who we traded for from the Saints. Smoot can play all that. So a lot of these guys are very versatile. I mean, even look at Shaquille Griffin. He can play in the slot too if he needs to. So everyone can play multiple positions, which I think is huge because injuries happen in the NFL. So when some injury happens, these guys can fill in.
Yeah, like I live in an apartment complex, so I take my dogs for walks pretty much for like before bed. And I was preparing for this, talking about it. And the one thing I thought of a lot was the same exact thing. This team almost could go mid-play, offense changes a play, and they're like, oh, we're in a 4-3. Oh, we're going to go to a 3-4. We're going to adjust to you moving your tight end or your running back out. With Allen and Chaseland, you have those options. And like what you just mentioned, those defensive guys, they're all that in between size. I mean, some of them are bigger than others. Like Hamilton should play on the inside.
Yeah.
He's an inside guy. But you said Harris, he can play the inside, he can play the outside. Like he comes from a 4-3 with the Bears where he was a big end, but he's basically almost the same size as Calais. Like no one's the same size as Calais. He's a ginormous human being. That's going to be his role. Yeah. And Calais played both 4-3 and 3-4. So same thing with Tyson Alala. When he was first here, he actually played, I believe, big defensive end for us. And then when he was with the Steelers the last couple of years, he played 3-4. So there's going to be a lot of versatility with this defense that I think is going to make it very hard to stop. Very hard to score against with the offense, where they're going to switch mid-play or they can game plan, and every week they're going to throw a different defensive look. And that's going to really hurt the offense, especially early on in the game. So hopefully the Jags do what they didn't do last year and score in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And actually get ahead. If they get ahead, it might be tough.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of secondary, like we were talking a little bit earlier, with the secondary, sometimes a new secondary, it takes a while to gel, a few games and all that. But one thing fans need to take note of is Shaquille Griffin, Rayshawn Jenkins. They grew up together. They've known each other since they were 6. So that chemistry already and connection is huge because now your safeties as a corner, your safeties thought process. Now, are they going to help you on the outside or are they not? So that is already huge. That gives an advantage. And Griffin is already was familiar with Sidney Jones. So right there, those three have a connection already just like that. And so really your lone wolf right now is CJ Henderson, which, they talked about they've already been in communication. So already getting that connection down is huge, I think.
And then his Griffin's brother is also on the team.
Yep. I don't think he's been signed yet, but I'm pretty sure he will be.
It's basically rumored and almost locked set that he's going to be with his brother.
Yeah.
And honestly, he wasn't bad with Seattle. Like he wasn't anything spectacular, but be like your second strong safety or your third strong safety special teams guy. He's not a bad
linebacker.
Guy. Yeah, he could also play linebacker. He can cover. He can him and Quincy Williams are probably pretty close to size, speed. Like he may be the backup to Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams gets hurt, which he often does.
Yeah.
And so I love this. That's why I give it basically a B+. The free agency class, I think, especially the secondary. I don't really see us drafting a corner this year. At first, it was corner at 25 or 33. Like we can't just run the same secondary we had last year. Now it's looking like I don't really see a hole. I don't see a corner making this roster from the draft the way that it's looking, unless we don't like Scott or Clay Brooks. Those are like the only wiggle room there is. The first 4 are basically set.
Yeah, with Griffin, Jones, Henderson, and Herndon are your top 4. Like Urban said, those 4 are going to be your top 4 no matter what.
Yeah. So then it's just who's going to get the quarter packages and injuries to be playing into the dime and things like that. So we're not going to be in the corner market probably for a while with Henderson and Griffin, which is fantastic.
I love Griffin's attitude. He talked about coming in here. He's not asking to be the number 1 guy, even though you're paying that money. He's going to be, but, hearing him say that he's coming here to, fight for, playing time. It's great to hear because that shows leadership and someone that's not feels like they are a know-it-all and given everything,
Yeah. And I mean, I have his. I was going to. He's my favorite player from this free agency class. He's 25 years old. He's 6 foot tall, basically even. Goes between 190, 200 pounds, and runs a fourth. He ran a 4.38 at combine. And the guy has 250 tackles and 48 pass breakups and 6 interceptions in his career with a Pro Bowl. This guy's legit. I get he may be coming from Seattle. A lot of people know Seattle's defense hasn't been great, but their pass rush has basically been nothing. I think the guy named Pua from last year's draft was one of their best guys on there, and they brought Carlos Dunlap, and Carlos Dunlap couldn't even do anything. So I think with Chason and Allen and this defensive line, Jags are going to get pressure. I would almost put not a lock. I'm not going to lock anything this time early on. I think he may get his second Pro Bowl either this year or next year. Yeah. I think he could very much be in line that if everything goes right, he could be named to his second Pro Bowl this year or next year.
Yeah, I really like Griffin. He in Seattle they play a lot of zone, so we'll see how he does in man because Urban Meyer talked about in his media press conference saying that they plan on running a lot of press and man coverage right away, which Shaquille said he's cool at playing zone and man. So that's, good that he's comfortable with both of those. But it is going to be interesting to see how he can handle man coverage, which I'm all for watching the Jags finally being in man coverage after so long just being in zone the whole entire time with Todd Wash here. So it's definitely going to be
4-3 zone, baby. That's all it was. 4-3 zone. Back up, give him 5 yards, nothing. Just let the receivers do whatever they wanted. Now, and he's 6 feet, 200 pounds, and runs a 4.3, 4.4. Yeah. That's the ideal press man guy. He's not skinny, but he's not so big that he's slow. He's the perfect size to play press man coverage.
Yeah. And CJ Henderson he plays better when it's man coverage too. That's what he excels at. So finally
he got us the win. One win was when he was playing press coverage against the Colts week 1, where he had those 2 pass breakups at the end of the game where he was right in the face with the guy. Phillip Rivers was challenging him and he locked it down.
See, that was the problem with Todd Wash. Todd Wash would never switch to his players' abilities. Josh Allen, he's proven he can do a 4.3, but he's also in college, he ran a 3.4. So
he's a standing linebacker.
But, that's good knowing that, he can do a 4.3 as well. So when you change plays up, but Chason, he struggled a lot last year with a 3.4. So I think he's actually going to take definitely a big step in the 3.4 system.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your favorite signing was Shaquille Griffin, correct?
Yeah, he was mine. What was your favorite?
Mine was Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is the fact that, yes, he's 31, but he still has so much left in the tank. I mean, when listening to him talk today, he is so intelligent. He is a leader of the locker room, someone that you want around your team. And he talks so highly of our offensive coordinator Bevel and talks about how he excels so well in the system that Bevel is going to run. And I'm definitely, excited to watch him play. I mean, he has speed. I believe he was one of the best at 50-50 balls last year. So he's very good at catching.
Red zone.
9 touchdowns,
gets 9 or 8 touchdowns a year, man. He won't get you the yards. He'll get 700, but in the red zone. And him and Colin Johnson, I think, and Chark, they're going to be red zone machines.
Yes.
I think. They got the height.
So Chark, Laviska Shenault, and Marvin Jones. That's your top 3, and that's a pretty good 3 in my opinion. So Chark is going to obviously be alpha number 1. It's just but then Marvin Jones is going to be who's going to be number 2 or who's going to be number 3. I assume Marvin Jones will be number 2 because they're going to use Viska in the slot a lot. Yeah. But to me, those 3, that's going to be a pretty deadly combo for Trevor Lawrence.
I 100% agree. The only thing we're missing, and I think this is maybe the least favorite thing in free agency, where's the tight end?
Yeah,
we got the blocking tight end in Carolina. We got O'Shawn. I think everybody has a soft spot. O'Shaughnessy, he always fills in when he needs to, but he's not the number 1 guy.
He's a good number 3 tight end.
Number 2, number 3 tight end. O'Shawn's perfect. If he's your number 1 tight end, we got problems.
Yeah.
And if you look at the tight end list, we're gonna have to trade for it. We can talk about that later. We're not getting Pitts. He's going top 10. We're at 25. That will take significant trade value to move up there. So we're going to have to trade for a tight end. That's the only reason I didn't give free agency an A. If we would have gotten one of those guys for tight end, this would have been sealed deal, one of the better free agency classes we've had in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But where's that?
Yeah, I agree. And when I look at the tight end group, and I'm gonna jump ship really quick, talking about offensive linemen. Some fans are upset we didn't get no backup offensive tackles, but I think Chris Manhertz, he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. So I think that was probably Urban Meyer's thought process. Like, what, he can line up on the right or left side with whatever tackle. So I think that was the thought process, to bring one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. But yeah, we're absolutely gonna have to get another tight end, whether we trade for one or draft one. I wouldn't even be surprised if they draft 2 tight ends if they don't trade for one. They go Fryermuth from a tight end from Penn State, and also maybe even a third round the tight end from Miami, Jordan.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't want to pick back to back because honestly, I like Trey McKitty. That's one of my sleepers in this draft from FSU to Georgia. Never really got a shot. He has all of the potential. But correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Urban hire the tight end coach from Penn State?
Yes, he did. So I think he's gonna be pushing hard to get his tight end.
And I'm pretty sure, and Urban already proved that he's listening to his coaches. Like, where the defensive coordinator was pounding the table for Ward. Like, he said he's never heard anybody pound the table as hard before for a guy. And this is going to be our maybe third pass rusher kind of guy. Like, maybe he's listening to the Penn State coach and being like, you're draft this guy. This guy is him, and you saw Gesicki. Like, it's like I did both of those guys, Gesicki and him. Like, you may want to listen to them. So maybe that's where they're going with 33 or 45. But I don't know. I kind of agree with you. If we don't trade a guy, I would want maybe 2 tight ends in this class.
Yeah. And I don't think they're going to pick a tight end at 25. They might, if, they possibly might. But if that's safety from TCU there at 25, you have to grab him, because that will fulfill that whole secondary.
Yeah. I think him, or I was one of the people. I think we need a back tackle. I think we need a tackle. Robinson's on franchise tag. Juwan Taylor wasn't great last year. And your backup tackle right now is Will Richardson.
Yeah.
Who at some view more as a guard than a tackle.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like maybe Mayfield from Michigan, or the guy from Texas. You got Alex Leatherwood, who maybe can play tackle. Some say guard, but he was great at Alabama. I think that is where we're going to go at 25, but I'd be fine if we get off the TCU guy. I think our secondary would just be stacked.
I think a sleeper at 25 or 33 is a wide receiver, because Urban Meyer, even after getting Philip Dorsett, says we're not done at wide receiver just yet. So I think, and he talks about speed. So I think he wants someone that can just beat you on the top.
If I do agree, I think if Tony or Bateman is there from Minnesota, I think it would be very difficult to not get one of those guys, because they are just fast, effective route runners. And if you add that into her, Trevor Lawrence going to have a lot of things to throw to.
And isn't there the receiver from Purdue? What's his name?
Yeah, Moore.
Yeah, I think then they talk about like he could potentially also be like, he's very fast as well, and he could slide into the first round as well.
He just got injury history. From what I looked into, almost every year he plays, he gets some kind of injury bug. So I think that's the only reason he's falling. If he didn't have that, I think he would be in that. But the wide receiver class is so deep this year that it's almost like once you get past the top 3 guys, is there really that much difference between 4 and 10?
Yep.
Like, you just never know.
All right, so let's go on to the next topic. Who is your least favorite free agency signing for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
I get he's Urban's guy. Urban and him have a relationship. 2 years, $6 million is almost the same deal Kenyon Drake got to play for the Raiders, which I think his was 2 years. Like I don't know. I would have paid Kenyon Drake the money to be our backup running back than Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde and Robinson are almost the same exact player. Carlos Hyde is going to get, hopefully Robinson stays healthy, but Carlos Hyde is not going to get over 100 touches this year.
No,
I think we have a problem here.
Yeah.
So I just don't get it. I think the running back class this year is actually very good, and no one's drafting running backs high anymore. You could easily get like a Trey Sermon from Oklahoma, or
you mean Ohio State, right?
Oklahoma, now he's Ohio State.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I think he could be there. The other guy from Oklahoma State, Hubbard, is going to be there. Memphis has a lot of good running backs. North Carolina has a duo.
Yeah, North Carolina has 2, I think, coming out of the draft.
And they're very high on him. Like when I listen to like Todd McShay or them, they're like, these 2 guys are legit. Like they're going to be starters in the NFL someday or 1B guys in the
Yeah.
locker room. So when I see like Carlos Hyde signing, I'm like, did we really need that? Like we need running back depth, but I didn't want Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
We saw what he did here. He didn't want to be here. He was okay with Houston last year, but that was easily the one that I was scratching my head on.
Yeah.
That's the guy we go after.
I'm right there with you as he is my least favorite signing. I guess, I can understand the Urban Meyer connection. He was also Balky was a GM when he got drafted for the 49ers. You look at 2018 and, it seemed like he didn't want to be here after getting traded. But obviously, things can change. A whole new, coaching staff, all new players, whole new front office. So maybe, apparently in his media press conference, like his introduction, Carlos Hyde, he said that when he found out Urban Meyer was coaching Jags, he said, that's where I'm going, no matter what.
That's fine. But
and our quarterback coach was their offensive coordinator in Seattle, where he was last year,
Yeah.
So I can understand that move. I guess the only positive bringing Carlos Hyde back is he's the same back as James Robinson. So James Robinson does get hurt, you don't have to change anything up. So I think that's the only positive of Carlos Hyde.
I get it, but I don't know.
You could get Jamal Williams. I think went 2 years to like $7 million for the Lions.
Yeah, there was a lot of running backs that I view better than Carlos Hyde, basically getting the same exact deal or like better 1-year deals. That I was like, I would
James
rather have
that guy.
There.
James Conner is still out there in free agency.
Yeah. And then I know we couldn't predict Philip Lindsay, but Phil Lindsay was out there. I think James White is still out there.
He is, and I would sign James White right now because he's that third down running back.
Yeah, there's a lot of third down running backs in the draft. I think that's where they're going to go for their third down running back. I don't think Urban wants to pay it. But I would take James White for like 1 year, $3 million deal or something like that. Be my third down running back, possibly even number 2. He's not terrible, like 100%. He was a Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl MVP, right, that year? Or no, Brady gave him the truck. I'm sorry, Brady gave him the truck. That's what the story was. But
did Brady give him the truck?
Maybe I don't like 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that was the one with the comeback, the 29 to
yeah. And
3,
so
right?
it was like
28-3. Sorry, yeah.
Whatever it was, he's very good at what he does. He's a third down running back. I would very much like to have him, and I would have expected someone like that before Hyde.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, James White will probably end up going to the Bucs if I had to put money on it, though.
I could see it. The Bucs are going to probably upgrade. Fournette might be back there. Maybe they just take all of our running backs.
Yeah, who knows? So now we talked about trades earlier, like potential. Like Jags might trade for players. Who are some players or in positions do you think the Jaguars might be looking to trade at or trade for?
Well, I don't think we're going to be trading that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
For players, I think when I look at the roster, the only thing I see is tight end, and the only 2 real tight ends that are available for trade that I know of are Zach Ertz and David Njoku. And to be honest, 4th round pick will probably go for both of those guys. Njoku maybe a 5th because Browns have 2 good tight ends with Austin Hooper, and they drafted a guy that his name is escaping me. But Hooper, Njoku would be decent, but I wouldn't be thrilled with it, but I would take it. I would still draft a guy pretty high.
I would draft a guy even if we get either one of those still, though.
Well, yeah, but I think Ertz, he just wants an extension. That's why he's not willing to play for the Eagles. I think he's making about $8 million right now for the cap. I would do the Hunter Henry deal. 3 years, $35 million for Zach Ertz. I grew up as an Eagles fan. My dad's side of the family is from Philly, so it's kind of ingrained with me as well. But I grew up here in Jacksonville, so I'm a Jags fan. And Zach Ertz was the Eagles for a lot of years. Like, dude gets 100 catches a year with almost 10 touchdowns. He's easily a top 5 guy. Even when his age starting to get to him, he still has 3 or 4 years left in him.
Yeah.
That's my guy. Honestly, that is like, I'm waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think Urban maybe was waiting for all the other tight ends to go everywhere because now there's almost no market. So I think he wanted the best value for his buck. He didn't want to give up a 2nd or a 3rd for Ertz. He waited it out, and now you can get Ertz for maybe a 4th or a 5th.
Yeah, because the Eagles are going to get to the point where they ain't going to have no room to negotiate. Whatever team offers, they're going to have to accept it. That could eventually be a 6th round pick. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So I think that's the play. I hope that's the play. But and then other than that, I don't see a lot of teams wanting our players. So the
I
only
mean,
person I could see maybe getting traded is Minshew.
yeah,
And I think he could get traded to the team that missed out on the quarterbacks in the first round this year, whether that be the Bears, the Steelers, the Washington football team, kind of like in those 20s kind of pick of if, so it won't happen probably draft night, maybe happen day 3 of the draft or day 2 of the draft.
yeah,
Or I personally also think it may happen later in the year. Quarterbacks always go down training camp. And I think Urban wants to at least see what Minshew has
he
and
is
like
cheap.
face to
Yeah,
face, see what he does in camp. And if he likes what he likes, maybe we run with him as our QB2. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it, but I wouldn't love it. But if Trevor goes down, who cares? Just tank this, like what happened with Burrow. Who cares? Let's just not win a game and get a better pick as possible. But and Minshew might be the guy for that. But I don't know. I think Minshew's the only guy that has value on this team.
yeah,
That is on this team right now that Urban's willing to get rid of is Gardner Minshew.
yeah. I 100% agree. I don't see anyone else getting traded whatsoever. The only person I really thought of was Cam Robinson. Potentially at first was a tag and trade, but they are not. They're not getting rid of Cam Robinson. I can understand Cam Robinson he's shown flashes to be good. He's been inconsistent. His rookie year and this past year, he was very good with the run. He just needs to get better at the pass protection, which, Urban Meyer says that he sees a lot of potential in him. So I think this is the real prove it year for Cam Robinson if he gets an extension or not.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't see too much players moving. Maybe picks. I think we have too many picks this year that we're going to be trading out into next year's or consolidating, moving up a lot. Those are the only trades I see. I don't really see that many player for picks or player for player happening.
Yeah, so we have because we traded away a 7th for Malcolm Brown, then we got a 7th back for Josh Oliver for next year if he makes the 53-man roster from the Baltimore Ravens. So he might not even make that. So
yeah,
we might not even get that 7th round pick. So, but going into the draft, I believe we have 10 picks. And when you look at the roster, yeah, we were 1-15 football team, but there's a lot of talent on this team. And, we sign a lot of these depth guys, in free agency and some, starters, a little bit of each. So it makes you kind of wonder. I don't think if they draft all 10 rookies, I don't think all 10 make the team.
If we draft 10 guys, 4 to 5 of them aren't making the team. They're going straight to practice squad, or they're getting traded away, or they're just going to get released.
Yeah.
If we do draft 10, expect some names that maybe Jags fans kind of like as role players to be released. Wilson and safety could be released. Quincy Williams could be released. I'm looking at a lot of the linebackers that could be gone. A lot of guys that weren't here when Urban was here, just because he just got here. So if we draft guys, I think Urban wants those guys. He just spent a pick on them to draft. So if we draft a linebacker, we're going to cut a linebacker.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to cut the pick that he just drafted. He's going to cut the guy that wasn't his guy that he picked. There's a reason he picked that guy. So I think we'll see more cuts than we realize if we pick, but I don't think we're picking 10.
Yeah.
We thought that there's a different front office. We didn't think we were 11 or 12 guys, and we picked all of them. We didn't trade a single one of them.
And they all made the team, I think, too.
We're going to trade up. We got too many picks, and we took every single pick. So who knows? Maybe that happens again, but I personally don't see us drafting 22 rookies in 2 years.
Yeah,
that's almost ridiculous.
The only way I see it is because, like you said, Urban Meyer wants these guys. The one thing Urban Meyer thinks can be very good at in the NFL is talent. So, evaluating the talent. I think that's something he's really good at in college, probably one of the best of all time. And he also, has connections in college, so he can get inside information on these guys. Yep. So some guy that might be undrafted, he might end up getting drafted 5th round by the Jaguars because Urban Meyer sees something in him.
You got the picks, waste them. What's the difference between a 5th round pick and an undrafted guy? Usually not very much.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So if he's there, take him.
The way I look at it, rounds 1 through 3, 1 and 2 should be starters right away. 3rd should contribute as much, at least 50%. Rounds 4 through 7, you're just hoping you hit on a gem.
Yeah. And that's why I think this year is the hardest hit on a gem because of COVID. You have a lot of opt-outs. You have a lot of guys who didn't play. You have as many games as you would want. So I think I would draft out to next year.
Yeah.
I would 100% do that with the late round picks. trade your fifth for a next year's fourth from a team. And I would much be happier drafting fourth next year than fifth this year, because I think it's kind of a toss up. You don't know how well someone's going to do this year compared to next year. It can't even be comparable.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is what is Urban Meyer going to bring to the Jaguars? For me, obviously, he's won wherever he's been, whether it was Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, or Ohio State. So I think he's going to bring that winning culture. Obviously, this is not going to be built in one night or one season. It's going to take, I think, 2 seasons. I think, it's not going to be no 4 or 5, year rebuild that some, so-called experts think that's what's going to happen. That's not going to happen. But I can see anywhere from 6 to 9 wins Urban Meyer's first year, if everything goes correctly, anywhere in that range. But I think he's bringing a good locker room, people that want to be here, people that want to play football, and just good guys all around. Just leaders. He wants pretty much everyone to be a leader in some way or in some capacity. So that's what I think Urban Meyer is going to bring to the Jaguars.
I 100% agree. I think he's going to bring the winning culture. He has done nothing in his career but win. I think that's why Shad wanted him. He's won at every single level he's ever done. And it's not comparable from Bowling Green to Ohio State. That's a pretty big jump. Obviously, he didn't go that in that order, but even Utah to Florida, SEC we know is just ridiculous. And Utah is not it's a program that's well known, but it's not going to win a national championship. At Florida, he won 2 of them. So it's not that I'm not trying to compare Utah to Florida from college to pro, because it's college to pros. We've seen many college coaches on it, but he wins at every level. I think he knows what to get the job done. He hired great coaches. And that was my thing when we hired him. I didn't love it, but I wanted to see who he hired. And he's listening to his guys too. And that's what he's just painting out. So I think leadership, and for the team perspective, where you mentioned fast guys. Yeah. I think he wants this to be one of the fastest group of players on the field at all times. So, and I'm okay with that. Depth and fast, I 100% will sign aboard over 2 or 3 star players on a team.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly, you could have got Jonnu Smith if you paid more than what the Patriots did. But if you got him, you're probably not getting 3 starters. You're only getting Jonnu Smith. So
now we need as many starters as possible on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Urban Meyer, like we talked about, his coaching staff, Joe Cullen, he basically was pounding the desk to get Jihad Award here from the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. So obviously Cullen sees something in him and potential untapped, potential that he sees. Urban Meyer basically said, he didn't watch really any tape of him. He trusted his coaching staff. So that's why they ended up signing him, that player. And that's a lot of these players, Urban Meyer obviously did do his research on most of these guys and, watch film and all that. But some of these guys, he trusted his coaches' word, and that's why they went out and got these guys.
Yep. And I think that's what leadership should be. And he's not running a dictatorship. He is the top guy, but I see it more as kind of like a democracy where he's the top guy going to make that final decision. All rests on him. But he's listening to the people below him, the people that he put there, which I think is fantastic. I think that will help a lot.
Absolutely. So one of the final topics is this news around the National Football League. Obviously, you're an Eagles fan too, as well as the Jags. The Giants kind of hit big in free agency. They re-signed Leonard Williams. They got Kenny Golladay, and now they just signed Adoree Jackson to a pretty hefty 3 or $39 million deal. And I'll tell you what, the Giants defense is looking pretty damn good.
They could have 4 Pro Bowlers on their defense. Like Blake Martinez is a very underrated linebacker that I can't remember if he led the league in tackles last year, but he had like almost 130.
I think he did with the Packers, didn't he? He definitely led it with the Packers.
Yeah, and he did the same thing with the Packers too. And then you got Leonard Williams, Bradbury, and then Adoree Jackson, I think, has a possibility. He also is a great special teams punt returner. Jabril Peppers is a freak at safety. So I don't know, man. As an Eagles fan, I'm looking at it and going, we got to face Washington and the Giants. Both may have top 10 defenses this year.
Then you got the Cowboys offense, who stacked on offense, but their defenses suck. So
yeah, Cowboys are the opposite problem. The Eagles are somewhere in the middle. I don't know if I think they're just going to be an average football team. They got some good guys, but they're getting older. They got some holes, but then they got some star players. I could see it. And if Hurts is decent, they're going to win maybe 7 games, I think. I don't have super high hopes for them. But yeah, if Daniel Jones really takes off with Galladay and Shepard and Slayton, that's a pretty decent receiver core. And Evan Ingram's a pretty good receiver. Daniel Jones may be like a sleeper fantasy pick. Like we will talk about a little bit of fantasy on this. We're both pretty good in fantasy. We both are in multiple leagues. Daniel Jones may be a good QB2 pickup this year.
Yeah.
Like all said and done. Like he may be a solid sleeper. I'm using my last pick on Daniel Jones.
Maybe. Yeah, and he can actually run pretty good, especially that Eagles game last year. Remember when he ran
if he doesn't trip.
No, that was that last year or was that 2 years ago? I can't remember.
That was last year. Last year. 80-yard run. He ran like 20 miles an hour. I think he had one of the top 5 fastest speeds in the NFL last year, but he tripped at like the 10.
Yeah, he completely.
They scored a touchdown that drive. It didn't. They lost it. I think the Eagles. I don't know. I lost count. They won or lost, but I know they scored a touchdown that drive anyways.
So one more thing I want to bring up. So the AFC South. Obviously, some teams have gotten better. Some teams have gotten worse. What is your early power ranking for the 4 AFC South teams? For me, currently number 1 is the Indianapolis Colts due to the fact that I think Carson Wentz can do well with a good offensive line, which is what he's going to have with the Colts. He's going to have a good running game and a good defense. Wide receiver group there is probably average at best. But if Carson Wentz can get back to how he was in that Super Bowl run, I think the Colts can be dangerous. Number 2, I have the Tennessee Titans. Until we stop Derrick Henry, they're going to be number 2 for me. Obviously, got A.J. Brown. Ryan Tannehill is pretty good at most times in that system, but they lost their offense coordinator, who is now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Their defense, even though they got Bud Dupree, is still wasn't good last year at all. And then Jags 3, until I see Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence actually, Trevor Lawrence played and Urban Meyer actually coaches, they're going to be number 3 for me. And then Houston Texans, there's no point of talking about the Texans, no point of talking about Deshaun Watson, of everything going on with him. So what about you?
Yeah, I think everybody should have the Colts as the favorite right now. I still worry about the left tackle situation with their guy retiring. I can't pronounce his name, Consenso or whatever his name. I can't remember his name or pronounce it. But they have a hole there. Like they haven't signed anybody to their offensive line. Like I mean, Quentin Nelson's a beast. Their center is a beast. Like their interior is good. Maybe they move Quentin Nelson out to tackle. I don't know. He could probably do it. If there's anybody that could play all 5 positions on an NFL offensive line, it's Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do with that. But I think you just have to put the Colts as 1 right now. I go back and forth with the Titans and the Jags this year, man. Like that maybe is just like a homer bias, but man, I don't understand what they did in free agency with basically getting rid of their entire secondary. Like Kenny Vaccaro's gone, Dory Jackson's gone, Malcolm Butler's gone. They're not re-signing Clowney, but they paid $18 million for Bud Dupree, who is coming off an ACL injury.
Wasn't it like it's like 80? Wasn't it like a 5-year, $80 million deal? Something like that?
It's a ridiculous contract. It's one of the top contracts for free agency this year.
Yeah.
Like for Bud Dupree, who had the Watt brother, TJ Watt, on the other side, Cameron Hayward, Tuitt, and Tyson Alualu on that defensive front. Like that was a good defensive front for the Steelers. He was never probably double teamed. I didn't watch many of the Steelers games, but I don't see him panning out to the contract that he got.
Yeah.
So, and then they have no receivers. They signed Josh Reynolds today.
Yeah, but they have
Reynolds
AJ.
Right
yeah,
now, that's their number 2 receiver. Like, if you just stack the box and double AJ Brown with a corner and a safety, I don't know what they're going to do. They lost Jonnu Smith. They're going to run with that other guy, Frasker, I think is the tight end. He's pretty good, but he's not Jonnu Smith. And so I'm looking at the Titans, and I just see holes. Like, I just see holes everywhere, and I see the Jags, and I don't see as many holes. And I like Trevor Lawrence. So I think they're going to have about the same record. I think they're both going to be in the 500-ish, kind of going back and forth. But yeah, Texans are complete mess of the franchise and in the NFL. They're the new Browns. They are the
They
new
signed 30
Browns.
free agents. 30 free agents. Like, are you kidding me? 30 free
And
agents.
it's still probably only like a C+ draft, like free agency class. They just signed Dante Moncrief and Chris Conley as their top receivers. That's going to be their top receivers is Dante Moncrief.
Don't they have Brandon Cooks still?
And Chris. Brandon Cooks is like what? He's a gunner at best. Like
He'll have his good game in the bad games.
Because he had all the other players like I don't know. They are a mess, man.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks isn't as good as he used to be.
In the league they can't even tank. And I talked about this before like earlier in the week. They can't afford to tank because they don't have any first round picks. So there's no point in them tanking. So they're just going to go 6-10 or 6-11 if we get the extra game this year for the 17 games. I don't see them winning over. If Watson is not able to play this year because all the sexual allegation stuff, 13 women have now come together to press charges on him. Like Ezekiel Elliott got half a season for something far less, still not appropriate or anything like that. But he wasn't even found. I don't even think he was found guilty.
Yeah, and just the allegations itself. So
he still got he still got half the season. Like with Watson, it's not looking good that he probably at the very minimum, is my guess, is not playing this year.
Yeah, even if he's found not guilty, even just the allegations itself, he's going to get suspended at like at
the sure amount. The NFL has to be safe. And if you're a Texans fan, who cares? Like honestly, like you might as well just go just not pay attention to football for 2 or 3 years and then come back out of your cave and just be like, okay, let's do something, because they're not going to do anything. Like they have just a bunch of C+ role players. And if Watson is on that team, they're going to be the worst team in the league with no first round pick again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's terrible.
You probably should have traded Watson when they had a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Eagles were actually calling their doors. I think that line has now hung up. At least I would hope so. That line is no longer ringing for the Eagles and Texans, but they had a chance. I think the Eagles I'm sure that the Bears were in it. The Jets were in it. They should have hit on that looking back, foresight, but yeah, it's not looking good for them.
Yeah, only time will tell if he was found guilty or not, but I think that's all we'll talk about about Watson. Don't want to get into too much detail because we don't know all the information. Yeah,
who knows what could happen.
Yeah, who knows? But other than that, I think that was all the topics for today. Everyone be on the lookout for our podcast dropping very soon. We're also going to try to post a weekly Jaguar and other news around the NFL on YouTube. So one video a week we're going to try to do. But I'll put a link to the social media for 904 More in the description below. But other than that, go Jags, and thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.